Hello, everyone, and welcome to Real Estate Right Now. We talk about real estate matters that matter to you. My name is Jay Izso, and we are live here from Linacraft Team Studios here in Raleigh, North Carolina, part of the Greater Research Triangle Park. Today's show, self-inspection. Why you should self-inspect so that you can avoid bigger problems in your future. And it's something that we just don't do. I know I don't do it. And in fact, when Nogui was talking to me about the show, I was saying, I generally don't walk around my house and inspect things on my own. And I think that's true of most of us who are homeowners, is that we don't just look around. And so Nogui Aramburo, who is a buyer's expert professional with Linacraft Team Realtors, pitched me the idea. And I said, you know what, this is a great idea because we don't do it. So we're going to talk today about what a self-inspection looks like in your house, things that you should be looking at. And feel free to chime in your thoughts as we're doing this live all over. So YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook channels, X, wherever you're at, we're happy for you to join us in the show. So Nogui, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, sir.
Great to see you.
Happy to be here.
Yeah. He's kind of a little rushed. Rain, traffic has created a little bit of stuff. So he's still catching his breath a little bit. So that's okay. He's a warrior. So we'll keep going. You've been doing this for a number of years in a number of different positions. You've been in the closing department. You've been, you're an agent. You've walked around. You've dealt with inspection reports, and you've seen a lot of things. And one of the things that you said to me was, a lot of these inspection report items could have been avoided if somebody just walked around the house and caught it earlier.
That is 100%.
Talk about some of your experiences.
Yeah. So we like to call that deferred maintenance is the word for that. So
I love that. Good.
When you see that in an inspection report, it's exactly that, Jay, is that people just simply, busy lives, living their lives, and the things that you don't see on a daily basis, like you're not looking in your attic on a daily basis, you're not looking at your roof on a daily basis. Right. You're just going about your day, and there's so many things in your home that could go by the wayside. Right. As far as maintenance is concerned, just simply because these are not things that are right in front of your face every single day.
Right. So let's talk about some of the things when you're doing a self-inspection. Let's talk about some of the things that you should be looking at. So where do you like to tell people to start when it comes to, we go, okay, you're going to do a self-inspection of your home. Where do I start? Where do I start looking at?
Great. Great question. So it should be by season. So every season you should be looking at different things in your house.
Okay.
Right now we're at the tail end of the spring. We're entering into the summer.
Right.
Has it been official? Is it officially summer?
No, not yet.
Not yet.
We still got a couple weeks.
So right now what you would be doing is to get your home ready for the summer, right? Mm-hmm. So we've got the hot months coming ahead. We've got a lot of storms still coming. Mm. I know they say April showers bring May flowers, but it's more like April, May, June, July showers.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Yeah.
Bring big bills if you're not, watching your home. So what the type of maintenance and kind of care for the home would be getting ready for the summer months is what you would be doing now. So
where do we start there?
I would say start from the top and work your way down.
So let's you may have a walk-in attic. You may have a pull down stairs.
Correct.
Attic. So let's start up in the attic. Yeah. And what are we looking for when we get there? What should we be looking for?
In the attic, so what we're looking for is basically signs of moisture on your sheathing of the inside of your of the roof. On the other side of the roof, where the shingles come on, there's sheathing. And when the roof has failed from either storms, we've had some incredible storms in the last few years. Storms or just worn out.
Age.
Yeah, age. Yeah. The water gets in, the heat. It's exposed to a lot of heat. The first thing that goes on the roof is the little boot vents. The vents where all the gases are escaping. Yeah. There's little rubber boots around these little escape things.
Yeah.
And so those are the ones that they fail first, right?
Okay.
And then followed by the roof. So if just going in your attic and looking, inside, and if you see moisture spots there, that would be a sign that you should probably, call a roofer.
Yeah.
And
So
have that checked out.
I know that I have two accesses. So I have
Mhm.
a walk-in access in a smaller space that I
Mhm.
can check. And then I have a pull downstairs so I can get up. And I can't
Right.
really walk all the way back. Yeah, this is where bring a flashlight,
Yeah.
right? Because you can see a lot, more with a flashlight.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What it, and it's really important because you may be missing something that you're not paying attention. But when a home inspector gets there, they're going to see it,
They're going to see that. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. They're
And
going to crawl way into the, like what you can
right,
see from your eyes. They're going to, if there's a way to get in, they're going to crawl in there.
right,
They're going to go deep inside the attic. They're going to check everything. So if you catch problems you see from your naked eye,
mhm,
and you act on that, later on when the inspector, whoever gets in there, if there's problems, you could have those taken care of before before you're hit with a big bill.
right,
Let's say you're, under contract, even if you're not
right,
selling your home, but all of a sudden you wake up in the middle of the night and you got,
right.
you got water in your house.
What other things up there might we want to be looking at while we're up there?
So some other things you would be looking at would be like, let's say, we have bats here,
Yeah,
so a lot of these homes have gables
right,
with netting.
right,
That netting keeps bats and rodents and things out.
right,
It's like a screen mesh.
right, right, right.
And so over time, develop holes, rodents or chew holes in that. So have that checked out, because if it turns out you do have bats, right,
Right.
which is common.
It's common here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's real common. Yeah.
You can't just go up there like Samity Sam and like take out the bats, right? The bats are protected.
Right, right.
You gotta get an expert there, right? You got
Right.
expert, you're talking money, right?
Right.
Somebody that comes in, they'll install a door where the bat can get out and not get back in.
Right.
And you have to wait until they're gone, to
Right.
get rid of the bats. It's not like you can go in there and get rid of them easily.
And people are probably going right now, oh my gosh, bats. I'm not really fond of bats.
Right.
And, well, none of us are fond of bats, trust me. But they can be a source of a problem.
Yeah.
And by the way, the reason why they're there is because not only is it shelter, but they may be finding other food
right
in there as
Right.
well. One of the things I thought about when you were pitching me this idea up there is, sometimes up in attics, you have your air conditioner drain
Mhm.
up in the attics.
Mhm.
And, when it's hot, that drain can fill. And if you're not
Right.
careful, it may be clogged.
Right.
And I was thinking, man, you may want to take a look at how much water is sitting in that pan.
Correct.
Right.
And once we get into the HVAC part of it, we're
Yeah.
going to talk about all of that.
Yeah.
Once we,
Yeah.
because that's a whole section in itself, the mechanicals and all that.
Right.
Yeah.
But I if it's up there, if it's up there, which typically it is for a lot of homes, I'll tell you an incident that happened, not paying attention, was I actually had a cracked PVC pipe up in the attic that was going to that,
Right.
that I didn't pay attention because I don't go up there.
Right. Right.
And all of a sudden, the guy goes, you got a cracked PVC pipe that's dripping here. And I went, huh, that's interesting. I got a cracked PVC pipe.
Yeah.
And he goes, do you ever go up here to go? Well, no, I don't think
Yeah.
about it. Right. Because I don't think about pulling
Yeah.
down the stairs and walking
Right.
up there. But, you said it's seasonal. That's one of those things probably, especially this time of year, because we're heading into summer, it's about to get hot. But it's a good idea to go up into your crawl space, every now, or not crawl space, but up in your attic
Yeah.
every now and then.
Yeah, for
To
sure.
take a look
Yeah.
through that.
Absolutely. The HVAC, I don't know if you ever worked in fast food when you were younger.
Oh yeah, I
but,
did. Yeah. Well, restaurants. Yeah.
The soda machine, right? The soda
Yeah.
machine, if you didn't pour that hot water down into
Yeah.
the drain after the shift or whatever,
Yeah.
after a while it would like build up in that line,
Yep.
and then it would back up into the like the soda tray there.
Yeah.
That's the HVAC condensate line is the same exact thing. Like it needs to be blown
Right.
out everywhere. Like if you let it sit year after year, that
Right.
line gets backed up, and then once it gets backed up, it backs up into the pan.
Yep.
And then, now we have these switches that turn off your AC, but
Right.
with the older units, there wasn't a switch
Right.
there. It would just simply overflow into your
Right.
attic.
Yeah.
It's the same concept. With
Yeah.
that.
We used to do that when
concept.
I bartended, years ago, right? We had those drains where the taps were for the beer, right?
Yeah.
And every night, when you were done, we had to run hot water through those shifts because it would get sticky and it would clog up eventually. So that's a really great idea.
Yeah.
Okay, is there anything else in the attic we should be looking at in terms of inspection?
The attic, not necessarily, but your roof line. Okay. So like on the roof line, as we head into spring, so we've had winter, the trees have been bare.
Right.
We head into spring, the leaves start to come out, the branches start to branch out. So what happens is these branches, these trees, they start to lean over to your roof line.
Mm-hmm.
And so, eventually, if you don't trim those back, they're going to they'll be in contact with your roof line.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, that gives access to whatever manner of creatures are out there.
Right.
To just simply jump off of a tree branch onto your roof line and try to get inside your house. So cutting those back is something we recommend as well.
Yeah. The other thing is, there's a point here from Sergey Moisture Gets because of the R15 insulation. And he was talking about that, you got to check for moisture here. And so, that's a really good point because, if you're looking at, depending on the type of insulation you have, right, the moisture that's up there is actually degrading your insulation that's up in the attic, right? And so you want to take a real close look at that for sure.
Absolutely.
And also, I think to his point too, is that, check your trusses, what are they looking like, right? Check the trusses while you're up there. Just give a visual inspection of it, see if there's any moisture on the trusses, anything's unusual, right?
There's so much that you could just by even just sticking your head into the attic that you're going to see that otherwise kind of, if you took the like, I don't see it, I don't care, I'm not going to worry about it type approach, then you're not going to see those things.
Well, I think as we said, the biggest issue is we just don't do it. I mean, I don't, and I got to, and I don't know if this is a good place to do it. You talked about the roof line, and you talked about branches, right, and leaves and stuff like that. Is this a good time to talk about the gutters, or do we wait to the outside when we're inspecting the outside?
The gutters, when we talk about water control, we'll cover the gutters in depth on that.
All right, so we're inside the house. We're done with the attic. We've looked. We've been self-inspected. Call a professional. See immediately so that it's not a worse problem later, especially if you're going to sell your house. Okay, so then from the attic, we're moving our way down inside the house. So what are we looking for inside the house that we should be paying attention to?
Inside the house, I would say probably check for any drafts around your windows. Look to see if you've had any kind of insects. Like sometimes they'll find a way to get in. My house, I don't have an issue with that, but like I've had some years where like ants have appeared out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I'm like, where'd these guys come from?
I
haven't seen one in like 3 years. Where's this line of ants and stuff like that? So check for like any cracks, any like drafts that you might have inside the home. Clean your dryer vent. Let me see what else I had here on my little.
Well, cheat sheet. I think the bug thing is something to pay attention to because, when it's wet and damp out, bugs like to find a way to get in, right? And some bugs like moisture. And if you start having bugs, it means there's probably some moisture somewhere in your house that that they're settling in for sure. So, inspecting, that, and this may too be, as a preventative measure, right? You go, okay, I don't know where the ants are coming from, or, we have quote unquote palmetto bugs, right?
Don't get me started on those.
AKA cockroaches.
I'm from Miami. I have a fear of these things.
And so when you see those, get your bug people
Mhm.
out to go, do an inspection, because if you see
Yeah.
it, you want to handle this right away. And by the way, I've seen ants. I've had a problem occasionally with fruit flies.
Yeah.
And you go, I got nothing in my garbage. I've got
Right.
nothing. Where are they coming from?
Yeah.
Right. And here's something that we don't
Yeah.
think about. When's the
True.
last time you cleaned out your garbage,
Yeah.
your disposal in your sink?
Right. Right.
Because you've probably put some food down there, right? And yeah, you've run it, but you haven't really cleaned it.
Right.
So it might be an area. What other things
Yeah.
do you have on your list there?
Let's talk about, let's see if we can, let's talk about let's talk about the exterior
Okay,
and
let's
the siding. And I have this list here. I'm happy to send this to any of our listeners.
Yeah.
They send us a message. I'll get this list out
So
to them.
and it's Nogui at lindacraft.com.
Yes, sir.
NOGUI.
At lindacraft.com.
Yeah. And
LINDACRAFT.com.
Boy. So yeah, okay. So let's move from the inside. I would say also too, before we go to the outside, on the inside, check the seals around your toilets, check your, look underneath your sinks, check for any leaks that might be happening underneath your sinks, including the bathroom sink. I got to tell you, that's one area. I mean, I do get underneath and look at the kitchen sink, but sometimes I forget about the bathroom sinks. Right.
Yeah.
Is the toilet bowl moving?
Right.
It may not be solid, right?
Yeah.
Because, well, we sit on it, and some of us are heavier than others, and so things do start moving. And so you may want to take a look at those things as well as part of your inside due diligence.
Absolutely.
So let's move outside. Let's talk about outside. What do we got
Sure.
going outside?
Outside siding. I would definitely check for siding. So we have a lot of, we're having the summer months come in. We're going to have a lot of storms and whatnot coming in. So now would be a good time to check your siding. Your siding should also be checked in the fall before you head into winter.
Right.
But look for any cracks in your siding that could be sealed, particularly if you have more of this siding that requires higher maintenance than others. I'm talking about like masonite. A lot of that siding we have up here in North Raleigh, homes from the 80s, 70s and whatnot. If you've got aluminum siding or vinyl, this is probably a good time to power wash that.
Yeah.
We've just come out of pollen season.
Yeah.
Probably looks a little funky. Your neighbors are probably going to thank you. Give it a good power wash. Hardy plank cement fiber, that siding normally is pretty good. That type of siding rarely has any issues here in the South,
Right.
But those are the kind of things you want to do on the exterior. Again, sealing your siding and whatnot is going to keep creatures, insects and stuff from getting
Well, let me just speak to that a little bit, because we have heat and cold here. We get and things contract and expand. And one of the things I noticed when we started talking about this, I was looking at my garage, right? And I have these vinyl panels that go on I have a middle stanchion. I got these vinyl panels on either side where the garage door is kind of to make it look pretty. And I noticed that the silicone sealant had separated. Well, I started looking around and I noticed ants were crawling up inside there, and I have brick.
Yeah.
Right. And I think this is a good area for you to take a look. Like if you do have, things that are sealed, to take a look at those seals around certain areas on the outside, because those areas are best places for bugs and even small creatures, depending on the gaps. And I noticed my seals were gone. I'm like going, okay, you know what? I got to get somebody out here to reseal that silicone to the outside of the brick, to seal that all the way around.
Yeah.
I think another big one's gutters.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Gutters are such a critical component, and gutters really fall under water control. Because poor water control or water management at your property can be the death knell of your property. Could lead to really big huge bills.
Mhm.
Definitely surprises while you're under contract. So gutters, having your gutters clean before the storms get in.
Well, and especially after the fall,
Yeah.
right?
You got a lot of leaves,
Right.
junk built up. If you can see stuff in your gutters,
It's
they need to be cleaned.
it's a little beyond.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and there's things you could do. You can get gutter guards, which are not
Mhm.
terribly expensive, that help things, but even
Mhm.
they can get stacked
Yeah.
if you're not careful. But yeah, the gutters are really, really important, and just not just for drainage. We automatically think about it, but then you got to think about the drains that
Mhm.
come off the gutters, right?
Correct.
Because where is that downspout going? So when the water goes out, what's the direction
Yeah.
of the water? Where's that going?
Right.
Right. And we, of course, we want it away from the house, but the problem is that oftentimes we're getting you're getting you're getting water that's splashing
Yeah.
off and splashes back. And so, you want to make sure that the water is really moving in the right direction, and as much as possible is going out, because I mean, if you're not paying attention to it, that can be a problem. And also, I have a gutter that has that goes into an underground drain.
Correct. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And if that's clogged, well, I'm
Yeah.
backing up into my gutters again, and now I'm overflowing.
Yeah. And if you notice here where we live, you can be in a grade, or there's very few flat places around here. You're always going to be in some sort of grade, which could mean that you could have water backing up into your crawl space. And like you said, Jay, when you have your gutters, when your gutters are full of debris, what happens is in a hard rain, I mean, no matter what, in a super hard rain, right? You're going to get this water is just going to jump off the gutters. You know what I mean? But if you have them cleaned, it's going to direct most of the water away from your foundation.
Right.
And when you don't have that, when your gutters are full or backing up, what happens is that water's coming straight off your roof and straight into your foundation.
Right.
And eventually that's going to make its way into your crawl space.
Right.
And so when that happens, you got water in your crawl space. Crawl spaces are designed to handle some type of moisture, but not a constant thing like water. So what that does is that leads to elevated moisture levels, which eventually it's going to weigh down your insulation.
Right.
Your insulation is going to, I don't know if you've ever been in a crawl space and you see all the insulation on the floor. Insulation got hot. It's just sitting up there.
Yeah.
And because of the moisture, it got so heavy with moisture, it just falls on its own.
Yeah, we'll get to the crawl space. We don't have to dig too far into that because we're still on the outside of the house.
Yeah.
And as we're on the outside of the house, let's talk about the AC. Let's talk about the air conditioning heating units on the outside. If we're and remember, this is self-inspection, right? We're not trying to solve the problem here. What we're doing is we're self-inspecting so that we can avoid a future problem, is what we're trying to avoid, a bigger problem. So as you're self-inspecting the house, you're out at your AC heating, cooling units. What would you be looking for there, maybe just as a self-inspection?
So again, like leaves that have grown close to around your HVAC unit, you want to cut those off to let the air, freely go in there. Now would be a good time to get your unit serviced.
Right.
Right now, while the weather is still like this, it's not blazing saddles hot yet.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's been actually cool for us here.
Your AC guy, he's going to welcome a call from you right now. Don't call him when it's 100 out and all of a sudden your AC went out. If you do it now before it gets really hot, they can come in, they can service your unit quickly, get in and out. What happens is, and I've seen this so many times over the years, is all of a sudden you get a 90-degree day and all of a sudden people close their windows. They want to turn the AC on, and guess what? The AC is not working because, you haven't serviced it in a few years, and now it's that time. So right now, you call your HVAC guy right now. He's going to have time. He could maybe get in there this afternoon to check your place out. But if you call him once the temperatures are super, super high, you might have to wait a few days.
Yeah, I think this is an important thing too, is, is you should have a maintenance plan for your HVAC units, because I know we do, twice a year they come out and they look at our HVAC unit, clean it, do everything that they're supposed to. They take it apart, they go through and they look at all the pieces, make sure everything is functioning right. They do a check, depending on the time of year, the heat, the cooling, to make sure that we're good. They're looking at, all sorts of things that normally we wouldn't have, which is why the maintenance is so important. To the having a maintenance plan for your units is really, really important. And it's not expensive, really. It's a very easy thing to do. Be on the plan, let them check it so that you can avoid. Again, we're doing the self-inspection to avoid future bigger problems, right? Because especially the HVAC, if we would have taken some time to have a maintenance plan, check everything out there and look at what's happening. Well, if you wait too long, well, then you're replacing an entire HVAC unit versus going, okay, I just need a little maintenance just to kind of clean things up and get things moving. So that's really, really important as well. And I think back to the house thing, right? Because I want to go back inside the house as it deals with HVAC. We have those return vents, right? And, people buy the filters, they go to their local hardware store, or you can even buy them at grocery stores now, right? And they get the return vent filters, right? When's the last time you changed yours? Yeah, see, it's a really good question, right? So for, most of them, we're supposed to change those every 30 days. That's what the HVAC person recommended, right? You put the date on them and you should change them every 30 days on a regular basis. I do mine every first of the month. So everything's being changed right now in the houses. In fact, I texted my stepdaughter, Kelly, and told her, I said, hey, your dad said to, I'm telling you, change out the return vents, because she's got a couple. And that's so important for the units to breathe well. And you'd be surprised, especially because we came through a pollen season. Yeah.
Those filters are they're pretty yucky, right?
They're pretty yucky. If you haven't looked at it, it can be a problem. So that's an addition. We got a few minutes left.
Yeah.
I know there's more we could talk about outside, inside. Let's go into the crawl space real quick, because you did allude to it.
Yes.
Nobody likes to crawl into the crawl space if you have one, right? Because some of you may be on a slab or something else. But crawl space.
Crawl space is super important. Like I had mentioned earlier, for water control, to keep water out of your crawl space, because that could lead to some hefty bills if you have water penetration in your crawl space. But also, it's a good time to look to see if if any like critters made it their home over the winter months. Check to see if you've got any termite trails on your cinder block. You can see if termites have gotten in. They usually leave little tubes along your cinder block, and that's how you've got a problem there. But that's also a high ticket item that you could potentially avoid just by simply looking at inside your crawl space at least a couple times a year.
Yeah, check your vapor barrier, right? Because sometimes for whatever reason, maybe it got folded over, or it's been there so long that it's starting to have holes in the vapor barrier, and your vapor barrier is not very good. Check your vapor barrier. And I know you don't like crawling in the crawl space. I get it. I never liked it either. In fact, I hated it. I got to be honest. I'm about 6 feet 4 inches tall, and I never liked crawling around in there. Okay, so I get it. But it is something that is a necessity that you need to do. And in different months, the vents should be open and others should be closed. Right now, I think summer, right? Is it summer we want the vents open so that there's air? I can't remember. I think it's summer we want the vents open, and winter we want them closed. I think that's what it is.
I've been told that two different ways.
I've been told that two different ways too. And I'm second guessing myself, because I think I've had some say, open them in the summer, close them in the winter. And then I want to say, well, I think I had an inspector give me the opposite. So check with check with a home inspector, your local home inspector, to see what they recommend.
Yeah. This so the air in your crawl space is basically the air you end up breathing eventually.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like
Right.
having this area taken care of, it's going to help the air inside your home, because eventually it's going to make its way up
Right.
into your house. And like to your point, having the vents closed or open, you know,
Right.
to control that, the environment on
Right.
there
Right.
would be what a lot of people have done over the years is a encapsulation of the crawl space.
Right.
This costs a lot of money to encapsulate your crawl space. But what I've seen done in the last probably 6 years, it's probably been longer than that, is what is called a partial encapsulation.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't encapsulate your whole crawl space, but what they do is they come up to the vents
Right.
with the vapor barrier, and then they put in a dehumidifier, right, with a little hose running out. And so what happens is when you're you know, when the temperature goes up and down, that dehumidifier comes in and essentially can keep your crawl space dry. Due to our climate here, we're going to have a lot of humidity, a lot of moisture, you know, in these crawl space. And so water control is very crucial to that, you know, keeping the water obviously
and moisture,
out and keeping the moisture out as well. It's going to alleviate, you know, wood is an organic material. So once the moisture levels start to increase, you know, that leads to mold, fungus, all manner attraction of insects, like you said. It just leads to all kinds of manner of things that you don't want in your crawl space.
Yeah, and I think this is the, you know, you bring up a good point. Because we live in a pretty high humid climate, right? Here, mold is something we have to be very, very, very careful of here, because you do not want to be breathing in the mold spores. You know, inside or outside. It's something we should have probably said about inside is check around your washer dryer to make sure that, you know, where there's moisture sometimes build up, that you don't have mold, because we found mold on the toe molding, and in part of the drywall, and had to have that removed and replaced, and then figure out bring somebody in to figure out where that was coming from and why that was happening. And you're right. You know, the thing about the crawl space is, if you got mold in your crawl space, you're breathing that. So you need to do a visual inspection to see. I mean, we're not mold experts, but you need to at least be seeing that type of, you know, what may be happening down there. We've gone way over time already, and we could talk about a lot more, because there's so much we could have talked about.
Absolutely.
This has been fun.
Oh, always a pleasure.
Yeah, this has been a lot of fun to talk through. And you know, it's eye-opening, I think, for all of us, of going, you know what, I just need to walk around and look at my house. We get such a habit, right? I mean, we all do, right? Where we leave to go to work, right? Some of us work from home, but we really don't inspect the home. We just go to our desk, we work from home, and we come home from home, we plop ourselves on a couch, or we get some food, and we're not looking at the home. And I think the big thing about what we're trying to emphasize here is be a little self-aware. I mean, right?
This is for a lot of us the biggest asset that we own. You know, so keeping that asset in tip-top shape, you know, it's gonna help you save on some big bills in the future. So you're absolutely right, and I completely understand. I'm the same way. I get wrapped up in my daily life, and I'm you know, and I work in real estate, so I have to force myself. Hey, man, look at your gutters. You know, so like, you know, for me, even being in the industry, it's not something I think of often. So I can imagine just, you know, someone who's not. So definitely it's something that you want to do and stay on top of.
Yeah, it's very simple. Take a nice self-inspection. When you see something that you may be a potential problem, instead of waiting till it becomes a big problem, have somebody just take a look at it and say, that's qualified. That can say, oh, you know what? This is not a problem. Or you know what? This is something a little bigger that you may want to take care of now, because this is going to save you, I mean, potentially thousands upon thousands of dollars if you don't get in front of it. So really good stuff.
Absolutely.
So Nogui, if people want to get a hold of you, best way?
Sure. Best way would be by cell, 919-771-3609. And via email is my first name, Nogui, Nogui, at lindacraft.com, LINDACRAFT.com. And also I'd like to add, we also have a very vast vendor list of vendors for HVAC, general construction, mold, electrical issues, carpenters, painters. If you need a list of any of these vendors for your home, we can provide that.
And it's on the website. We have a list
on our website.
Yeah, we have a list of vendors on the lindacraft.com website. These are people that we've known and trusted over the years who have done an amazing job. So they've been vetted. Absolutely fantastic vendors that we've worked with. She's been around for 40 years. And so she's had time to really vet out a lot of these people.
Absolutely.
Matter of fact, some people have gone out of business and we've had to replace them in the 40 years that she's been doing it.
That's true.
But check out the vendor list for sure. I think we also need to give a shout out because we have a dinner and discussion coming up, right?
That's right.
Is that June 24th? I think it is.
It's gosh, you got me there, but yes, but we're going to be covering why you need a will.
Why you need a will.
Yes. And that's information on our website. This is an absolutely powerful talk that we're going to have here at our office in person, right? We're doing that
in person. And so here's the thing, it's dinner and discussion. Right now it's full, but put your name down to be on the backup list because people there's going to be some people who are going to cancel out, but it's a really big one.
Yes, absolutely.
Beth Bowen, attorney, real estate attorney, is going to be talking. And again, it's going to be powerful. We're doing these dinner and discussions here to help educate people on different subject matters. And we literally bring in the professional to help educate, and they're absolutely powerful. And it is dinner. We actually provide dinner, and it's a discussion. So check those out because they come out every month. Nogui, this has been fun. Thank you for doing this with me, man.
Always a pleasure, sir. An honor. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Folks, thanks for joining us. You have a lot of choices. You chose us. Thank you so much for making the decision. Please tell your friends. If you watch us on YouTube, give us a thumbs up. That'd be great. Subscribe. That'd be awesome. If you're listening to us via podcast, give us a 5-star positive review. We would really appreciate you doing that. That is something great. And you know what? As I say to you all over the world, you know what that is? Ciao, every